Colossians 1:12 now gives us the fourth and final modifier for what it means to walk. The metacharas, with joy, in terms of versification, is in verse 11, but everyone's agreed that it goes with the sentence in verse 12. Eucharistuntes to patri to hikanosanti humas, estein merida, to kleru, ton hagion, into photi. So we are to walk giving thanks to the Father. And here you have your aorist participle, right? And it's modifying the to patri, who enabled you. Then here we get an interesting series of phrases. We'll come back and talk about their connection into the portion or into the share of the inheritance of the saints in the light. So the translation is pretty straightforward. It's just a question of what's the relationship of these different phrases. And I'm going to run out of space on the screen, so I need to shrink the font size down just a bit. So we are to walk with joy, and it's going to modify the participle, giving thanks to the Father. And then I'm just going to break these phrases down so we can talk about them. Okay, so giving thanks to the Father. So this one is obvious, giving thanks to the Father. What did the Father do? He enabled us. One of the questions we're going to have is what's the relationship between merida, the portion, and the inheritance? Now there's two possibilities here. Kleru can simply be in apposition to merida. In other words, into the portion, and that portion is the inheritance. Or to kleru can be a partitive genitive. We learned this a while back, where the word in the genitive is the larger unit and the head noun is a smaller unit. And that's probably what's going on here. So we'll do that into the portion of the inheritance. And then it's whose inheritance? Well, it's the inheritance of the saints. I guess this really should be over here. And then the question is, what does into photi go with? It actually could go with a couple of things. It could go with saints. And this is what the NLT does with it. It says he has enabled you to share in the inheritance that belongs to his people who live in the light. So they're putting the prepositional phrase there. It's also possible that it's the portion of the inheritance, and it's distinguishing an earthly inheritance from your heavenly inheritance. Both are possible, but if you check the different translations, you're going to see that they really do specify that these saints are those who are in the light. But again, that's the value of phrasing. You have to make up your mind on these things. So the whole thought is that Paul is praying that they be filled with the knowledge of his will, in order to walk worthy, and that means bearing fruit, growing, being empowered, and giving thanks. In verse 13, then, he's going to build off the mention of the patri and go into a discussion of God the Father.